Motor outdoors, here we come. Motor outdoors,
Go. Hey, everybody's here. Okay. Welcome to the Border Outdoors podcast. I'm Scott.
I'm Tim.
I'm Cory.
How you doing, fellers?
Oh, fantastic.
Mac
Doing
turned
great.
over the reins.
It's not winter.
Mac
so
turned over
I'm
the
in a good
reins
mood.
tonight for us youngins to take what the fuck to run with things. So we thought we'd talk about some barbecue. We were talking about it all week. Tim made some shit. Cory is always making shit. And I like shit, so figured we'd talk about it. I was thinking we'd use a format. So I was like, so what do you got? What's your favorite? And like, what's your secret that you can tell? So if we just went around and we're like, what do you got? I got this. What's your favorite thing to cook on it? It's that. And what's your secret to making it? I don't have a secret. Maybe you do, but I was thinking we'd try that. You guys cool with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody want to start? Or should we go alphabetically by first name or last name? I guess it doesn't matter.
I went both of them. I guess I don't know that I have a favorite. I kind of like the variety. My wife's favorite thing is these smoked chickens, and I actually just made them this weekend. It's not my recipe. I got it from an in-law of mine, and you have to brine it the night before. It never fails. I always procrastinate way too much, and I always end up doing it like 8 or 9 at night. And then, I put it on the smoker at around noon or 1. But this time I finally actually did get a full 24-hour brine on it. And it was probably the juiciest chicken I think I've ever had.
What do you use for a brine? What do you got a mixture you usually go with? A couple cups
Yeah.
of salt and a cup of sugar? Or?
Yeah, so I want to say I have it here right in front of me. I know it's 4 cups of water. I think it's 1 cup orange juice, 1 cup brown sugar, half a cup kosher salt, 2 tablespoons garlic powder, 1 tablespoon black pepper.
Holy smokes!
Yeah,
What's going on?
yeah, it takes on a good flavor, but nothing too crazy. And then you actually have to baste it every half an hour. And by the time you're cooking this, kind of depending on weather, it's anywhere from like 4 to 6 hours. If it's really cold, you keep opening the door every half hour. It's going to take a lot longer, kind of a deal.
4 to 6 for a chicken?
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Well, I mean, like I said, you're opening it to baste it every half an hour. So basically, as soon as it gets back up to temp, you're ripping the door open again. But then that's honey, soy sauce, ketchup, Worcestershire, a little bit more orange juice, dry mustard, kosher salt, and black pepper. So you kind of got to mix that together and baste it every half hour. But it turns out really, really good. And then I either use I used applewood this time. Didn't take on as much of a flavor. I usually almost exclusively run pecan wood unless I'm going to do like a big cut of meat, like a brisket or something like that. So it not quite as much smoke flavor, but I mean, just the flavor of the ingredients in the chicken, we're really shining on that. So,
wow, that
it's a little labor intensive. Like she likes it because she doesn't have to cook it.
Yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot. When I'll make chickens, because a couple of years ago, every year I'll try to do something different for Christmas. And a couple of years ago, I was going to do just a pork shoulder, and then I got a couple of those Amish chickens that I was going to do. And I always use fruit wood, so I got apple and I got cherry. And when I'm doing poultry, I'll use cherry, and when I'm doing pork, I use apple. And you just get those little Amish chickens. I don't do anything special with them at all. I don't do any kind of brine. I probably should. The only time I ever did a brine was when I did salmon. But I'll find some sort of injection to put in it. Italian dressing, something, just whatever. And I'll put them on for maybe 3 hours at maybe 250, 225 to 250.
Yep.
And they're done and they're delicious. But it's it's smoked chicken. It's whatever. Like nobody's making a podcast about my smoked chicken. I'll tell you that. That shit that you just talked about. Holy smokes, man! I'm fucking in. That sounds amazing.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll share the recipe on the border page. It turns out great every time. I've never had it turn out bad. Like I said, it's just a little bit of a pain, but I mean it's a good excuse just to have to sit in the garage and drink beer on a Saturday. So it really kind
Oh
of
yeah.
kind of goes with my motive. I was actually trying to get something done this Sunday when I make it. So that was I was dinging in sprinkler lines and doing all kinds of yard work, trying to run over every half hour. That was a stupid idea. That didn't really work out too hot, but yeah.
Pretty hard to multitask when you're smoking, but actually, that's some of my best ribs turned out when I forgot all about them for like 4 hours.
Oh, really?
They turned out phenomenal. Yeah, it was the best ones I ever made. So,
Do you wrap yours like in foil and put butter or like kind of what's your
well, okay, so that's one thing I just did on Sunday was I did a couple of racks of baby back ribs, and then we also tried some beef short ribs. My mom found some in the freezer from one of the last cows we had butchered. Had no idea they were even there. We don't normally order them. So the beef short ribs, I'll go over that real quick. That's actually pretty simple. All I did is I rubbed them down a little bit of olive oil and some salt, pepper, and some minced garlic, and I let that sit overnight. And then the baby. Well, then actually one other thing you have to do the beef short ribs. There is kind of a fat cap slash. It's not much of the membrane, but more or less the fat cap. You take that off, and you actually do leave the membrane on there because if you take the membrane off, they'll come right off the bones in the smoker.
oh
So that's one thing to kind of remember, I guess. But God damn, is that my place with the bird or Scott's?
I think that was me. Fucker buzzed me.
So then that's all I did with the beef ribs, and then the night before, with the baby backs, I pull off the membrane, and I just buy some like Weber brand dry rub them down. And I wrap everything up in on a or put on a cookie sheet, wrap it up with some plastic wrap, and let it sit in the fridge overnight. So then I did both those in the same smoker, which in a way I kind of regret because it's kind of two totally different animals. The beef ribs, I was told they're going to take a lot longer, which I think everything kind of finished off about the same time. But I don't know, it just didn't seem right that they didn't really cook together well, I guess. But everything still was okay. But like smoking beef stuff, brisket's good. But anything other than brisket, in my opinion, when you're smoking beef, it takes on a whole different flavor. And I felt like I almost should have used the same rub on my beef ribs as I did on the pork ribs. But either way, I smoked everything in the same wood, of course. I was all hickory. And hickory is kind of my go-to. Cory, you mentioned that you did the pecan. I was actually looking for pecan chunks because my smoker is kind of a bitch to run. So I do it's a side by side like barrel smoker. This time around, I did the hickory again, like I mentioned, but I buy those big chunks. They're like almost like logs, split in half. So I buy the box of the big logs, and it takes on a pretty decent flavor, I think, but it does take quite a while to get them going. This time around, it seemed like the logs when I bought them, it seemed like they were wet because they were popping really bad when I was trying to get them to actually burn. So I don't know what happened there. It'd be better, I think, if I had the box for a while and let it sit and dry for some more time, maybe. But I basically focused on the beef ribs. I wanted to get them up to about 210 degrees, and then I wrapped them and pulled them for a half an hour. And they actually did take on kind of a brisket texture in a way, where it was. I guess the better way to describe them would be a shit ton of burnt ends, is what it was like.
Oh,
that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
yeah.
Some of it was a
I'm
little
sorry
bit
for your
overdone.
loss.
Yeah. Some of it was a little bit overdone, but there was other pieces in there that were like, holy shit, these were like dead on. They were perfect.
Did you sauce them?
All I did was I would spritz them with apple cider vinegar, and then I toned that down a little bit with some apple juice because I was spraying my pork ribs with the same stuff. And apple cider vinegar, when it comes out of the bottle smelling like your feet, I have a hard time believing it's going to taste good. But it was still all right. And then I didn't do any kind of sauces on the beef ribs. I wanted to try them just all natural, I guess. And a little bit of a regret there. I wish I would have threw a little bit of barbecue sauce on them. I think that would have brought them back to life a little bit better. But and then my pork ribs, I did one with barbecue sauce, and then the other one I just stuck with the dry rub. And this time around, the barbecue sauce one was the better one, which is normally not the case for me. Normally, the dry one, if I stick to dry, and then they're usually just fine. But with the pork ribs too, after about 4 hours, those get wrapped up for at least an hour, and then spray the piss out of them right before I close up the wrapping, and that seems to help out quite a bit too. But you get them out once you take those pork ribs out of that foil pack. Then I like to kind of get that heat going in the smoker and just kind of sear them again real quick, like just to kind of finish them off.
Mm-hmm.
So I did those along with my smoked whistleberries, and those turned out phenomenal. Your whistleberries turn out good when you're starting to drop ass after like the third spoonful. They were fast acting. Oh man, they kicked in like right now. And we actually tonight for supper we just ate some more of them, and I'm out here by myself on the porch for a reason.
You do beans in the smoker?
I do beans in a smoker, and I tell you what, that is some of the best. Okay, this is what I really like about beans in the smoker. You put them on there for 2 to 3 hours, and they take on so much flavor. So my bean recipe, I pretty much pulled it up mostly off the internet, and I tweak it here and there, just kind of change some things up. So really, this is a plain and simple recipe too. It's just like the big can, the 55 ounce or whatever can of just regular old beans. It calls for pork and beans. I don't do the pork and beans. I do just bush beans original. That's it. But I take and I fry up some bacon, like a pound of bacon. Supposed to use 8 slices. I figured more is better.
Yeah.
So bacon is always better.
Yeah, and that's the one time I'll fry my bacon to where it's actually crispy, because you want to be able to break it up with your hands and put it in there. So fry up the bacon, pull that out. It called for 1 jalapeno and a medium onion, and then it also called for a green pepper. Well, I used 4 jalapenos, and I made sure every seed that it was in those jalapenos went into it. And then I used a big onion in it as well. But you take and saute that in your bacon grease. And I did post a quick little Mother's Day video on Facebook on the community page. But I did all that on the cast iron out on my Weber grill over the charcoal. And I tell you what, the smell that was out here was just unbelievable. And then once you get your bacon fried up, your veggies all sauteed, I'll start mixing in. It's like a can of this time I did tidbits, but I normally do crushed pineapple. So you drain that, and then like a cup of ketchup and a cup of brown sugar and a couple teaspoons of dried mustard, which is weird because the recipe tells you if you like it hotter, put more dried mustard in, which I can't really see dried mustard giving it a lot of heat. I figured my heat comes from the jalapenos.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess I don't really understand that one. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, you throw it on a smoker. So on that one, I did it on my Weber kettle grill, and I put all my charcoal on the one side, put a piece of wood on that side, got that smoking good and hot, and then I put the pan of beans on the other side of the grill, so it's somewhat indirect heat. And those I haven't screwed up a batch of those yet. I don't think you could screw them up really.
You ever look at like any kind of research about smoke and stuff, especially on YouTube? A lot of Southern people are really big into like just their own beans, and like you said, they usually do like a pork and beans, and then they all have their own way that they like to do it. But some people think that that's just like the centerpiece. Yeah, sure, the meat's great and everything, but some people take a ton of pride in their beans, so
yeah,
they sound delicious. That's for dang sure.
Well, and one thing I would have done, if I would have cut up those beef ribs before the beans were done, I would have loved to take some of those pieces that were maybe a little too charred to chew on. I would have thrown them in the beans too. I've done that before in the past with like pork ribs, or not pork ribs, but like pork roast.
Yep.
Throw some pulled pork in with those beans, and oh man, that just wakes them up. It's good, very good.
See, the thing is after a while, you get to making, you make your ribs and you make your pork shoulder and you smoke some fish and brisket. I did once, and then it's just like, I refuse to believe that good brisket can be made outside of Texas. And somebody can prove me wrong one day, but I refuse to believe it. The only good brisket I've ever had was a place called Hutchins Barbecue in Texas. And maybe it was so good that everything else pales in comparison. But it's the sides that then you start branching off to. And I went with, speaking of two grills, you do your pulled pork, which is just whatever. Anyone can do a pork shoulder, bone-in pork shoulder, whatever. Throw it in the smoker. I know a lot of folks do 225. I do 250, and let it rock with applewood for what ends up being probably about 12 hours. Gets all done. It's falling apart. You pull it all. I take the juices that dripped. I don't wrap that shit at all. I take the juices that dripped, and I'll fucking basically stream it or screen it through like a paper towel. Get all the real chunky fatty shit off. Throw that away, and then pour it back in, and then mix it all up. I don't take any sauce. I take all that pork. I put it right on the fucking Blackstone, big pile of it on the Blackstone.
There you
And
go.
then take a big scoop of mac and cheese, fucking pile that on top.
Oh,
Ciabatta roll that's toasting right there. Pile the whole fucking thing up. Fucking delicious. Fucking best thing I've ever made.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
Go for that.
But the mac and cheese is tough. I don't make creamy mac and cheese. And I know you got to put like cream cheese, sour cream. I know you got to put that shit in there to get it creamy, but I grabbed blocks of cheese. I'm in Wisconsin, so I grabbed blocks of cheese and I hand shred all this fucking cheese. And I just go noodles, all this cheese, and then I do cheese on top and some breadcrumbs, bake it a little bit, and it's thick and sticky. And pile it on top of some fucking pulled pork, nice juicy pulled pork, and it's perfect. If it's too creamy, it'd start falling off. You got to have it thick and sticky to be
a little
able
bit of a binder, basically. Yeah. That was something I learned about cheese. Is the freshly shredded cheese is always better melted than like any sort of bagged cheese. Whatever they coat the bagged cheese with, it just doesn't melt the same. You're way better off to shred it fresh all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
We were at a graduation party last year, and my cousin made smoked mac and cheese. And that's something I got to figure out, too, because that shit was delicious.
I think it's probably similar to beans, right?
That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm sure you don't have to smoke it very long. Just probably long enough to get the cheese to melt in. And, I'm sure you put your mac is going in there basically already pre-cooked and ready to roll.
You do it just a hair on the al dente side, because if you put it in for like a half hour, an hour, it'll still kind of cook the noodles down a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
But,
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was phenomenal too. That pasta pulls in that smoke flavor. It doesn't take much to get that flavor to come through. Like the beans, same thing.
Yeah. I did one time. I think I mentioned it. I did panko on the top of the mac and cheese with some bacon bits. That was
get some
good.
crunch going. Yeah, that sounds delicious. That's something I haven't tried yet. Is mac and cheese out on the smoke or anything. But Scott, you had mentioned brisket, and being that we raise our own beef, we usually wind up with some pretty hellacious sized briskets. I've done a bunch of like say 14 to 18 pounders or whatever. Jeez. And we had one that the brisket was 22 pounds.
That's fucking massive.
Oh my God. It was that's not even official.
You call the whole town in for dinner?
Yeah, well, we should have. So actually, I brought that. I was so nervous about this one because I was doing it for other people, not just my family. We were going out to the hunting land. We're out west, and we're going to make this brisket for a couple families and my family. So I did a bunch of research, and I was hearing a lot of, a pound an hour. And I'm thinking, well, shit, I got 22 hours to cook this damn thing. Oh, my God. Well, he's got my buddy Brad out west where we hunt. He's got a bigger side-by-side barrel smoker. And we get out there to go camping. And the night that I was going to start the brisket, we started his smoker. We made burgers on it, made it all direct heat kind of stuff. Pulled all that stuff out, got the firebox going. At 8 o'clock at night, I put that brisket on. I'm thinking 8 o'clock at night, 22 hours, 6 o'clock the next night, we're in good shape, right? that brisket I actually did. I found a tinfoil pan big enough, and I ended up having to kind of pull the ends out just to kind of run it diagonally across to fill it in there or
Yeah.
fit it in there. And I tented the tinfoil and kind of made like a tunnel from where that smoke would come out from the right side, and just forced it right through this tenting because I was worried about it drying out, but I wanted to also get the smoke to run across the meat. So then we were getting ready to go to bed that night. I've been tending to this thing for a while. I think it stayed up till midnight, 1 o'clock, whatever it was. And so I stoked the fire with white oak, just some white oak from that we pulled out of the woods that was super dry, nice clean wood. So I threw all the wood I could find on there to run this thing as long as possible. And of course, I'm laying in bed at night in the camper, and I'm like, I can't sleep because I got meat out there cooking. So I want to get up nonstop to make sure that I was going out and making sure the smoker was staying at temp, which everything was looking good. So I get up. The last time I got up was like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I go out there and I'm like, man, this thing it's shrunk down and it's black. And I'm like, holy shit, she cooked the last few hours here. So then we ended up putting a thermometer in, and I was at 205 at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And what do I do with this thing now? You know, I'm like, this thing's done. So what we ended up doing is taking more tinfoil, and
You eat breakfast is what you fucking do.
well, I would say
Fry up some eggs.
Yeah, I pulled a few chunks off there. So being that it was in already in a aluminum foil pan, we wrapped it with some more aluminum foil, and then we took and wrapped it in a whole bunch of old towels and stuffed it in the cooler and just set it there. And we're looking at the smoker, and the bad part is 20 minutes before I got out of bed, my buddy Brad decided he was going to stoke the smoker. So now this thing is like primed and ready to go and nothing to cook. So we're like, well, screw this. So we hopped in the truck, ran into town, and went to the butcher shop and picked up like a 11-pound pork roast or some goddamn thing. And his deal was, I'm like, well, what are we going to do with the pork roast now? We haven't had time to inject it. We haven't had time to marinate it overnight in anything or nothing. He's like, well, we took like a big bag of brown sugar and just packed all the brown sugar all the way around it the best we could. And then we put it on that smoker. And I think it was right around lunchtime. That's when I started to cut into that brisket. And what I did is I took a fillet knife, and the fillet knife wouldn't really cut through. I touched it with the tip of the fillet knife, and my brisket just went, just kind of fell into pieces. I'm like, what the hell is this? You know, it just, I couldn't even barely get a slice out of it. It wouldn't even hold itself together. So all that was it collagen or whatever, all that stuff released. And it was like, it was more like pulled pork basically at that point.
Wow.
It was so damn tender. And I don't know if it was because I did it in a tinfoil pan or what happened. I don't know what the deal was, but that was the best brisket I've ever done in my life. So for supper, for lunch we had brisket, and then for supper we had brisket and pulled pork, and we ate like kings that weekend. Goddamn
food coma that night.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. That one brisket I had at that Hutchins, that's what it sounds like. Is basically once they give it to you, it's so soft, it's melting your mouth. You know, just falls apart. And I've gotten brisket a handful of other places. And I mean, I've been to 12 Bones. I've been to some of like the world famous barbecue joints.
Yep.
It's just not as good. I just, I mean, I'll get pork all day. That's great. But I've never had brisket outside of Texas that's good. And it sounds like it's because I haven't had it at your house. So let me know when that's going to happen. And
you did that big trip last summer. Would you say a little bit divier of a place, a little sketchier, the better the food was? My dad, when he would go out of town, he said that this one place was like an old gas station that they turned into a restaurant. And he said you just get like the old high school cafeteria trays and just some the old paper towels, brown paper towels, and that's kind of how they served everything. And he said it was the best barbecue he's ever had.
That's been my experience every time I've ever traveled and got barbecue, period. Like that Hutchins looks like a house out of a horror film. Like you wouldn't pull in the parking lot if there wasn't a line around the building waiting for barbecue. It's terrifying. And even like 12 Bones, which is, like every president who's presently alive has eaten barbecue at 12 Bones. Yeah, I mean, it's good. They've done a nice job, and apparently they made enough money that they built a nice place, and it's not as good. But
Yeah.
the shithole that, when you go into the bad neighborhood where, like you probably shouldn't be, but you pull over and you go inside and you grab some barbecue, that's the best shit you're ever going to eat in your life. If you're not scared, it's not good barbecue.
Well, that's kind of the story I want to tell too right now. Kind of relates to that. We did a big trip down south to go check out a bunch of states, and went back when I was working at Cat. We were looking at all these cat plants. I was going to go maybe move down south, so we took a week-long trip just to go drive around down there and check shit out. We went a few hundred miles out of the way to go to Memphis to hit barbecue. And we were at the Bass Pro Shops, the one it's an old like the Luxor out in Vegas. It's the old pyramid.
Oh, yeah.
So we were there, and we went across the river to the first barbecue place we could find was called Central Barbecue. I think there's a couple of them around Memphis, but this one was in a sketchy neighborhood. We pulled in there. It was 1:00 in the afternoon. There's a guy standing out front. He had a gun on his holster, security badge, all that kind of stuff. And he just kind of kept walking the restaurant round and round, making sure everybody was safe. Well, I get there, I parked, and I went around back. I want to go check out the smoker situation to see what these guys are working with. And I'm walking down some alley, and Jane's like, "Get your ass over here, you get fucking shot," And I'm like, "Oh no, I don't know. I think we're fine over here. I don't know. I just want to check out the smoker situation." But that was some damn good barbecue. Our family, the family of four of us, we kind of cooperated. Everybody got something a little bit different, so that way, obviously, we can all try. So we had the chicken, we had the ribs, we had the pulled pork, we had the brisket, and there wasn't anything on there that was bad at all. So yeah, you're right though. You get into the shitty neighborhoods or the shitty buildings. So like Cory, you're local around here. Have you ever been to a place in Osseo called Lindy's?
No, but I've heard of it.
It's basically just a diner. So when I was working at Cat down in Osseo, Brooklyn Park area, there's this little restaurant called Lindy's. It was just a small little building. You walk in and they had actually all the old beer cans. They had a beer can collection that would just cover all the walls in the place. And down in the main area, you have all your little stools sitting there like a normal small town cafe. Then you went to the little back room. You had more dining tables and things like that. And for I don't know how many years they had a tarp on the roof because the roof was fucked up and it was all damaged and everything leaking. Well, my wife Jane meets me down there for lunch one day, and I'm like, I'm gonna take you to a classy place. We pull in the driveway, and she's like, "What are you taking me?" I'm like, "Don't judge this book by its cover, man." I'm like, "This is the best food you'll have in anywhere around here." And yeah, it's the same thing. Their food was phenomenal. And then they started talking about how they're going to tear the place down and build a new place. And I'm like, well, are you going to take the old top with or not? And they're like, no, we're getting all this new state of the art shit. I'm like, you guys are going to screw this up big time. And I tell you what, I went back to that new place. I won't go back again. Yeah. It's nothing like the original. It's just.
Oh, isn't that what sucks though? I mean, it's kind of like Metallica.
Yep.
Like you're mad at them for their success, like I don't listen to fucking Metallica. I was a Ride the Lightning Master of Puppets guy. All of a sudden Black comes out, they get sober and they're basically Nickelback. Fuck these guys. But the same thing as with barbecue is place comes out, it makes the best fucking barbecue anywhere. It's the best. Yep. And they make enough money, they can finally upgrade the place. They upgrade the place and it's shit. And yep. It's like, but it's not like we're mad at them for their success. It's not like, no, I like eating on dirty tables with shitty floors. No, it genuinely tastes worse.
Right.
Like, because I'll go, like mini mall barbecue, like Dickie's, or there's a place down around like Greensboro, North Carolina called Old Southern Barbecue, I think. And basically it's the famous Dave. Once he sold out the chain, got out of it, he then opened this other chain called Old Southern Barbecue. There's actually one closer to you guys than to me in Rice Lake, Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
So a couple hours south of the cities. And it's good barbecue, but it's like nice joint barbecue. And I'll go there before I'd go to like a Panera or whatever, If my choice is fucking Noodles and Company or Mini Mall barbecue, I'm still going to get fucking barbecue. But it's just not as good. But I feel like the old smoker and the old shitty atmosphere, I feel like that injects flavor. I feel like flavor gets in there.
Well,
like
and
blindfolded, it's better.
If you start to get too commercial and you take some of that like personal attachment that some of these guys and gals have to some of this, you lose that when you get too commercial. I think, not to say that they're sellouts. It's just you can't do the same thing and repeat it the same, I guess, and then be consistent.
Yeah.
I don't think. But
that's why you got to find a barbecue place that says, okay, we open at noon until the food's gone.
Yeah.
Well, then you got a decent barbecue joint. I feel like you said, Cory, I feel like you're once they get down to where they have this process and anybody can follow that process, they can bring they don't call them pit masters at that point. They just walk in and just follow your instructions. Well,
some pimple-faced teenager kid can come and do it. It ain't gonna be as good.
Yeah, so. There's no personal attachment to it anymore, and then it's all gone. In my opinion, and so it's an art.
That's a good point. Not only if you're not scared, it's not good barbecue, and if they're still serving at 7:00 at night, that ain't good barbecue.
Right. Yeah. If they're out by 4:00 in the afternoon on a weekday or weekday, you got a good barbecue right there.
Yeah. Try tomorrow. Because the places that sell out, and actually around where I live, there's a few barbecue joints, and some of them are better than others and whatever, but a lot of them are like fancy barbecue, nice restaurant. Go in there and get a pizza. Take your wife, first date material kind of stuff. And it's fine, like I said, it's whatever. But there's like a couple places that are just like they pull the smoker up attached to a trailer to a gas station on Sunday morning at like 9, and they're sold out by noon every day. And you just go there and you get lunch. And these guys come with a lot of fucking meat, and it's gone by noon. And so it's like Sunday morning, I wake up and it's like, hey, what are we doing today? And the wife's like, probably yard work. I'm like, all right, I'm going to get some barbecue. And,
have you noticed that with some of the food trucks these days, though, too? Like some of the food trucks are pumping out some pretty good stuff. The brewery in Annandale there, we've tried a couple different things, and it's pretty cool to see the food trucks coming back. They kind of had this dirty, feel to them for a long time, but I've had a lot of good meals out of food trucks lately too. So.
Yeah, they're not the normal roach coach like they used to be.
Yeah,
you guys
Denny's Chuck Wagon like we used to have show up at when I worked at JanSport. I worked the 4 p.m. to 3 a.m. shift, and every night at like 8 o'clock, Denny's Chuck Wagon would show up with like gas station sandwiches. It was fucking terrible. Now you go to the food truck and it's the best food in town. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yep. Do you guys have a preference, I guess, specifically about ribs as far as a dry rub versus sauce? Like, there's a lot of times I think all you're really getting with sauce, like you're covering up the meat, like all you're tasting is sauce. So kind of what's the point? So I would say I tend to be more of a dry rub guy, but when we went down to Nashville, they had some, I think it was, is it Carolina makes a white sauce or something like that? It was a white barbecue sauce. That was pretty good. I like that. But do you guys have a preference specific to ribs?
I would rather do a dry rub than anything. Like I said, you're not covering up a whole lot. You're just kind of adding to the meat at this point. One thing I love to see is when you put your dry rub on, everything's, it's kind of dry looking when you put it in the fridge overnight. You come out the next morning, it's got like this.
It's wet.
Yeah, it's like this lather over
like
top.
Like a sheen.
Yeah. That I dig. I like that part. So that's what I go with.
Yeah. I always, like, if I do pulled pork, I'm very slow to put sauce on it because I like the meat flavor, and I'd like to say the same is true for ribs. But I always break down and put a light coating of a good barbecue sauce on there. But it kind of depends on, like you can go buy, different sauces and whatnot. And I I don't even fucking know what kind of sauce we have in the house. I generally don't like it. I've tried to make my own like 5, 6 different times. I can make my own rub all day. I'm good with my own rub. I'm happy with it. I can't make my own sauce. And so whatever, I don't even fucking know what kind of sauce there is. When it's ribs, I just like a thin little coating on there, almost just to get it messier.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last time I did it, the other day, it was KC Masterpiece is what I used, and I like that because it kind of gives you that rich smoky flavor. I guess it's kind of a darker flavor. But Cory, you mentioned like the Carolina, like the yellow sauce or the white sauce or whatever. I absolutely love that too. On like say a pulled pork sandwich, I'll put that over the top of that. And to
Yeah.
me, that's where it's at. I love that kind of sauce, like the mustard based sauces.
Yeah, I just saw one recently in the store, and I guess kind of going back to what I was just saying, it's probably not going to be as good, but I was going to try to buy some out of the store and see if it was worth it, darn it all. But I would agree if I am going to put it, if I'm going to put any on ribs, it's usually just a little bit. But same thing with pulled pork. I mean, sure, I'd just like to sit there and eat it as I'm carving it up or whatever. But that would be one thing that I would sauce up with something pretty good, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, generally, like I have sauce in the house almost solely for barbecued chicken. Like you go and you buy like a whole chicken, like cutting whatever the pieces, whatever. So you got your breasts and you got your thighs and you got your legs and whatever. You go get a couple of those, and to me, that's summer. Is like it's fucking second week of August or something, and you just cook up all this chicken and cover it in barbecue sauce, and you got corn on the cob going on the grill next to it, and a little potato salad, some fucking beans maybe off the smoker. God damn, that's just that's fucking summertime right there. Is that? And I know we're talking about smoking meat, but that grilled chicken in the summertime, man, that's fucking something. I'll tell you what.
Well,
Mouse water in here.
that's like the meal we had tonight for suppers. I cooked up of chicken wings, and back in right out of high school, we were big on these buffalo wings. The hotter, the better, you know. But we were always deep frying them, and then we would take this buffalo wing sauce, like Louisiana Crystal brand Louisiana hot sauce, and we would add like for every jar, I got like a stick of butter, and it sat in a kettle and boiled for hours until it turned into fucking tar. So I kind of went away from that, went a little healthier. I make my chicken now on my charcoal grill. So that's what I did tonight. Is I put out my charcoal grill, got my chicken wings on there, got them to where they're about 90% done, and then I bring out the tin foil. And with our family, we like 2 different sauces. So I'll take one with a buffalo wing sauce, and the other one's just a traditional, like the KC Masterpiece barbecue sauce. So I make foil packs out of that, and then throw them back on the grill for a little while just to get that sauce to kind of cook in a little bit and warm up. And I tell you what, we brought out, I didn't think we put enough of the buffalo wing sauce on there, but this time around, when we open up the container of foil, it didn't look like, you know, like the Domino's buffalo wing where you got all the sauce everywhere. It almost looked like I sprayed it down or rubbed it down with some dry rub. It was kind of dryish, but
Oh yeah,
what they were phenomenal.
nice and sticky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was sticky.
That's
And then
perfect.
the barbecue sauce, we did a little extra barbecue sauce on her, so they were just messier than shit, you know. And I can, still smell it in my beard. So,
You ever smoke wings?
well,
I did once.
I have a little
good.
bit. Basically, my version of smoking wings is I just turn the heat down a little bit by, you know, obviously I'm running all charcoal stuff, so I can't just turn the thermostat down, but I will kind of close off the vents and I'll throw a chunk of wood in there. But before we get to that, though, like tonight for our sides, I took my leftover beans and my mom's potato salad that we had yesterday with those ribs, and that was our meal. Those buffalo wings, and then or the barbecue, and then the potato salad and the beans. So yeah, we were eating good today.
Man, that sounds good. I asked about smoking the wings. So a number of years ago, we went to a bar. It was a badass weekend. I was out with Ken's and Paul and Cody and a handful of people, and we went to a bar and they had smoked chicken wings, and the whole thing was they'd smoke them for like 3 hours first, and then finish them up and then serve them up, and they were dynamite. I mean, the fact that we polished off a bottle of Crown by 11 a.m. probably contributed to this. But
The
but
wood
I
was
thought
smoking and it tastes so good.
but I figured that they must have smoked them and then threw them in like a fryer. And so I came home and
Really?
I tried that, and it was fucking terrible. Burned the shit out of them. It was just everything about it was a nightmare. And so the next time I did it, I smoked them and for, I don't know, 2 hours maybe. And then after pulling them out of the smoke, sauced them real light and threw them on a hot grill for about maybe a minute on each side.
Yep.
Those were dynamite. Those were fucking
There you
delicious.
There you go.
Same thing. You get that kind of tacky, that sticky.
Yeah.
The sauce thickened up real good on them, and you get the smoky flavor, and they crisp up a little on the grill. Oh, it was fucking perfect. That fryer shit, that's for the birds. Pun intended. But yeah, it was pretty good.
If you're ever in Minnesota and you're looking for good wings, I went Serums in Anoka. Serum's Good Time Emporium. They have really good wings, so I would recommend them. I don't know if they smoke them, but that just made me think of them. I went in there at least a couple different times and tried something different each time. Yeah, good stuff. So
Yeah.
On
I've
that
always
note,
heard
if anybody happens to find themselves in the Green Bay area, maybe hoping to watch the Vikings beat the Packers, go to a place called Legend Larry's and get the bourbon bacon barbecue wings. I mean, aside from being absolutely the massivest, hugest wings I've ever seen, they were the tastiest, top 5 tastiest I'd ever had too. The best in my area is Legend Larry's. Just after the Noka place and whatnot that you mentioned, I'm like, well, should probably call something out then too.
I'm going to ask a question that's going to sound stupid, but hear me out. So I used to make it's essentially just the Frank's barbecue, some honey, and a few other spices, and then I just grill the wings. And I used to just find kind of like what Scott's talking about, basically the biggest drummies I could find, essentially. And I used to almost exclusively drummies when my likes the wings or the wingettes. So the one day I'm like, I mean, like these are super good, super juicy, but like I feel like I got to like double the recipe to get like the kind of flavor to them. And then she had bought wings the one time, and they're average size. I thought they were better because you had more sauce, something like the sauce to wing ratio or sauce to drummy ratio was better. Can you have too big of a wing, do you think, or a drummy?
I don't think you could ever have too big of a wing.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think so. I mean, if I could, I'd take the full leg and thigh together and call that a wing.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I'll just take the lower quarter.
That brings up kind of another topic I was going to bring up. So when we buy our wings, we buy them with the wing and the drummy together and that little piece of shit that nobody wants on the end, right? In the past, I've had people say, well, why don't you cut them up? So you take a scissors and you cut them apart. I don't even waste the time doing it anymore. What do you guys prefer on that?
I do both. I don't know that I have a strong preference. You know, short of having like the actual little wing on the end, I'll leave them, I guess. I could see where maybe you wouldn't lose as much juice maybe if you left them together, and it's a little bit easier. Break them apart. I don't know. I also hate boneless wings. That's garbage in my opinion. If you go
chicken
anywhere,
nuggets.
Like, yeah. Oh, a spicy chicken nugget. Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine.
Because that's one of my secret passions is boneless wings. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Oh man.
Not at home.
No.
Home.
Oh.
If I go to Applebee's, I'll get some boneless wings. But other than that,
you sit at B-Dubs or something like that, and you get some boneless wings or whatever, and 9 out of 10 times you're disappointed, but that 10th time is magical. And it's fine. I grill things as I buy it. I don't know. I mean, obviously, if I'm going to smoke ribs, I peel the silver skin and shit off. Although I've heard schools of thought saying leave it on for the same reason Tim mentioned earlier about the beef ribs. But I've actually heard that it seals in the juices better, and you actually get a more tender rib with it. But that's the only prep I do, whether I'm smoking, grilling. I don't do anything. I grill it as I get it. if whatever it is, I open the butcher paper and throw it on the grill, and this is what we're eating tonight, fellas. So I don't prep. I really don't prep much of anything. I don't brine. Sometimes I'll do injections. I don't do that much. I more or less rely on the meat. You buy good meat, and you count on it to do the talking.
That's a fair point, I guess. If anybody's listening, brining your pork chops can really make a world of difference if you want to put that little bit of extra effort in. So, a little pro tip.
One of
I
the
feel like I
tips,
got to start brining. I feel like I got it now. All this brine talk you have, I feel like I got to do something.
besides the brine, one of the tips I have for pork chops too is say you're going to put seasoned salt on pork chops because that's what everybody does. Don't do it till they're damn near done.
Yeah.
If you do it too early, if you season your chops with any kind of like a salty seasoning before they go on the grill, they'll dry out pretty fast from my experience. That's why you want to put your salty type brine on later on, right before you pull them off, or else it'll dry them out. So,
well, and don't
Really?
overcook them. Like everybody talks about,
Right.
it's got to be 165. That pork can still be a little pink on the inside. You'll be just
Well,
fine.
if you leave the
like-
grill at 155 and you put them in a pile in a pan and throw them on the countertop in the house for 5 minutes, you'll be at 160, 165 by the time you serve them anyways.
Yeah.
Well, you have to anyway, though, right? I mean, anyone else like damn near go fucking crazy on their family when they get food out of the smoker, out of the grill, whatever. Bring it in, you set it down, and people are immediately hands in. It's like, whoa,
Yeah.
it's got to sit for at least 5-10 minutes. Like, you don't fucking touch it now.
Yep. Back up.
Like,
Jack.
don't go reaching. I mean, the juice has got to redistribute there. It's still cooking as it sits here. You don't fucking touch this yet.
Yep. Well, and that's the other nice part about my family. I finally got them all liking their like say their beef like T-bone steaks. Everybody now likes them with about 80% pink all the way through.
There you go.
And,
Nice.
and so now I got everybody on board on that. The funny part is I can't get them to frickin' stay that goddamn pink by the time I'm getting them in the house. So, I do a little method with your fingers and you're touching your palm, and I've been pushing on them, and I don't know, the last few I've pulled off a little too late, and it's like, God damn it, by the time they sit in the house for maybe 5 minutes, you start cracking into them. Every now and then you get towards the center, you'll get some pink. So I gotta get a little bit better at pulling them a little bit earlier. So
You're lucky. You're lucky because my wife still takes a steak well done.
yeah,
And
I know.
and it doesn't bother me. It doesn't. You know what? You're gonna eat it. I don't care. You take it however you want. I spent years giving her shit for it, and one day it was just like I don't know why I care about this. We're like at a nice steak restaurant. She's like, I'd like it well done, and I looked at the waiter and I'm like, I'm really sorry. And the waiter's like, I don't care. Why do you care? Who cares how she's gonna get a steak? And I'm like, oh fuck you! Show me up in front of my fucking wife.
Yep.
No tip, dick.
Asshole.
But he's kind of right. I don't care how you get your steak. The thing that bothers me about it is now, basically, I fire up a grill and I get the grill good and ready for a steak, and I got to put hers on a solid 20 minutes before I put mine on.
That's a long time.
Wow.
Because otherwise it won't be done on time. And I spent a long time eating medium well steaks because by the time hers was done enough, mine was overdone. And so if I put hers on, wait 20 minutes, put mine on, give it a flip 5 minutes later, 10 minutes or so on the grill, I got medium rare steaks for me and the boys.
Yep.
I'm terrible at timing steaks. Like, I know when my steak's done, but I don't do a good job with my wife's steaks. Like, I'm always like, oh, should I do it 2 minutes, 5? Because she kind of likes hers medium well. She doesn't like it well done. She still likes some pink in the center or whatever, but mine are always just a little overdone, or hers are just a little underdone. It's just this constant battle. And like being the perfectionist, and I really want to enjoy the food. I'm like, so is your steak good? Like, it kind of how you like it. And she gets so annoyed. She's like, it's fine. Like, quit asking me every single time we have steak. It's fine. So
women, and when they say it's fine, it's never fine.
Right. I'm like, you're just saying that to make me feel better.
Now, if her eyes roll back in the back of her head and she says, "Oh my God, this is so good," then you know you did it right.
Oh yeah, I got that with pork chops last week. I made pork chops, and I did put that seasoning on right away. Which next time I'm going to try, because you're right, they were a little dry. Now that I think about it,
Do it
but
later on.
the flavor on these fuckers, I got thick bone-in chops.
There you
And
go.
oh my God, they were good. And the wife even stopped. She took a bite and she looked up and she's like, "Oh my God, these are good." And I'm like, Jesus, that's the first time I've made you happy in probably the last 15 years.
Got to kind of
My-
make the pants tight, huh?
My buddy went to like a steakhouse. If you've ever heard of Manny's, I've never been, but like Manny's in Minneapolis
Yeah, I've
is
heard of
supposed
that.
to be like the steakhouse to go to, and he went to something on that level, and he got a pork chop there, and he's like, I know what you're thinking, like, why would you go to a steakhouse to get a pork chop? But it's almost exactly what you described, just this super thick bone-in pork chop, and he goes, it was the best pork chop I have ever had. It will probably ever have. Like, there's no way I could do it the way they had done it. But yeah, fantastic. We always have to get the thin ones, and one of these days I'm going to be a man and just buy a proper pork chop. But
I tell you what, this is another shopping list for Scott when he comes to Minnesota next. And Cory, you should hit it up too. Osseo Meat Market. Go in there for their Cajun pork chops.
okay,
Each one of these pork chops,
Cajun.
Cajun pork chop. Each one of these is about £1 a piece, and they are about 1.5 inches thick or so. And they're already pre-seasoned, ready to roll. Scott, there you go. You grill it how you buy it, right? You throw them
Nice.
some on the grill, and we used to do these at work all the time. We had big cookouts where one guy would bring in this charcoal trough. It wasn't a grill; it was just a trough. It was like 15 feet long. We'd fill it full of. I think it took like 8 bags of charcoal to fill it up. But either way, we'd light them up and get those boneless, or not boneless. I'm sorry, those Cajun pork chops going. They were so goddamn good.
Boy, that sounds good.
you're not the first person that's told me to go to the Osseo Meat Market, not specifically for the pork chops, but yeah, I've heard to go there before, so I'll have to check it out.
They also had the stuffed pork chops, the big whatever stuffed. I don't know. I'm not a fan. I'd rather do the Cajun pork chops just because the spices and the flavors that come out of there, they are so goddamn good. And I don't know if you can make them dry. I don't know if you could even dry them out, honestly.
Perfect.
Yeah, they were really good. So I would.
I don't do a lot of the stuff. Like, I can just stuff it in my mouth. Fuck you. I don't need to, like, oh, what's in there? Oh, there's some apricot jelly and some creme fraiche. I'm like, oh, fuck off. Just give me the meat.
Yep. Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I'd rather have that Cajun pork chop than a stuffed pork chop any day.
So, Tim, what you just said probably alludes to what your answer is going to be. But do you guys often go to like a butcher or a meat market versus just going to the grocery store and getting stuff? Do you pay the extra money?
Yeah,
I'd only go to the butcher. I haven't bought meat at a grocery store in over 10 years.
Oh,
yep. Well, with us raising our own cows, that obviously all our beef comes out of our freezer. Mm-hmm. But like pork and stuff like that, yeah, I'd have to go if it's going to be anywhere, like closest to a grocery store would be like a Von Hansen's kind of deal.
Yeah.
But I'd much rather, and if I'm going to go to the grocery store, it's going to be like somewhere like Cub where you can find like say the thickest chops that you can get your hands on.
Sure.
But yeah,
well, they got good meat there. I mean, there's a lot of grocery stores that have good meat. Ken's dad. I mean, shit, we've gotten meat from him. It's always good meat.
Yeah.
But I go to the butcher shop and I go to a place. It's called the Meat Block here in town. My wife mispronounced it for years. The Meat Box. I still laugh at it. Oh, honey, you want to go to the Meat Box? Anyway, we go there. Yeah.
Yeah. Where's the cream
filling? But and not only do they have great steaks, great burgers, great brats, you get like them chicken fajita brats. Fuck, those are good. And like all in, everything's just good. But then they got really good like sides, and you can get like this. There's like this twice baked potato with like bacon and cheddar cheese in it and stuff like that. Just fucking delicious.
Yep.
And the other side of the meat block is a place called BBQ Grills and Spits. So I go over there and I look at like the $15,000 smoker, and they got rubs from all over the country. So they got like the white sauce, and they got rubs from all over the country in there. And so you go in there and it's like, oh, I'm going to try something different other than my own or the killer hogs or whatever they got around here. I'm going to try a different rub this time. And yeah, they got, oh, that's just fucking great. And I haven't gotten good meat in a grocery store in a long time. And I know that grocery stores have good meat, but I can't risk it. I'm going to smoke this fucker for like 12 hours. I can't have it come out not good.
True. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
If it's going to be a big event, I tend to. We do a similar thing with a cow. We split one with her family, so there's not much. Well, steaks. We don't get as many steaks anymore, so when they're on sale, we usually try to jump on that. But yeah, and then we bought a pig this year too, and that was okay, but I don't know if I'd ever buy a pig again. Not really. You really got to like pork. I mean, God, we got breakfast sausage, and actually we split a pig with Seth. And I'm like, oh, I'll just get breakfast sausage for the rest. But I got so much GD breakfast sausage. I mean, I like making breakfast on the weekends, but holy God, I got way too much of that.
I tell you what, when we buy a pig like that, I don't typically do any processed stuff with them. I just get the raw goods and call it a day. You know what I mean?
That's what I was going to say. Margaret and I, every year we go buy a quarter cow and a half a pig. Every spring, and it lasts about a year, give or take, I guess. I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 months, actually, I guess. It's anyway. And we went in there and they said, well, you could get, this one, and they show you all these and like, oh, and all your scraps can all go to something, so you can get breakfast sausages or whatever, or meat sticks or whatever you want. And I said, is there an option where I can just get what I want and I buy so much of it that you give me whatever discount you give people on like the quarter cow or whatever? And like, oh yeah, do that. So now I do that. I get the exact steaks I want. I don't get hams. I get all shoulders, all bone-in shoulders. Like these are the boniest pigs on the planet, because when I buy this pig, I get like 5 or 6 bone-in shoulders. No hams. Fuck that. Keep it. If somebody wants a ham, we'll go deal with that at that time or whatever. I don't need this massive thing in my fridge. But yeah, and I only get tenderloin steaks. We did ribeyes for a while, Tim. I know you like the T-bones and stuff. I only want tenderloin steaks. That's all I want. I want the fillet. That's it. Yep. And so I get a shitload of them. And, I mean, it costs a couple of bucks, but probably cheaper than going to the grocery store year round to just buy all the stuff in advance. So a lot of places will let you do that.
You guys talk about, like, say, buying a hog from somebody. I've wanted to do this for the last probably 5-6 years now, actually longer than that, probably. But what a guy used to work with, what he used to do is he had a hog farm, or he had the facilities to make up a hog farm, and he would find 9 people to put in $100 down payment. So he's got $900. He goes out and he bought 10 pigs, and that $900 would pay for the 10 pigs at 40 pounders or whatever. And then he would take the leftover money, he'd buy feed. So that all that money would basically, the down payment would buy the hogs plus one more for himself, and it paid for all the feed. And then when it came time to butcher, those guys would owe him another, say, $150 a hog or whatever. So he would actually make that much more money off the deal. And then so he got a hog for free, plus he put some money in his pocket for his time and his work and his energy.
Wow.
So because one of the things we've had problems with, like raising cows, I have so many people that say, hey, would you sell a quarter? Would you sell a half? Would you sell a whole? Whatever. They get that sticker shock when they go to pick up that cow from the butcher shop, and they say, well, I can't afford that, so I don't want it. So then they back out. Well, now you got all this meat sitting here. You got to get rid of it somehow. That's like the number one reason we stopped selling our beef like that, selling quarters or halves or wholes. But the whole hog thing, you have your down payment already taken care of. So if 1 or 2 people do back out, well, guess what? My freezer's really full of pig now, and I could possibly sell it off to somebody else too. So I don't know. I've been kicking around the idea to see. I know our summers are busy enough as it is, but goddamn, I tell you what, raising your own hogs and having them butchered, it's hard to beat. So I might have to get into that in a couple of years here.
Did I ever tell you guys about think we're running out of time anyway. But did I ever tell you guys that there's a place in Madison? I forgot the name of it. It's called like Underground Meat or something like that. And you could actually go there and butcher your own.
Really?
Like you go there and it's a class. And so you're in this class with maybe, I don't know, 10, 12 other people. And you go in the back and they've literally got pigs cut long ways, snout to the asshole, just, and you get your own half. And they teach you all the way through how to butcher it all the way down. And it's not that expensive. It's only like $150. You don't get to keep all of it. You get to keep pork chops. So depending on how thick you cut them, you can either keep 2 or 4 pork chops. I kept the whole fucking like pork belly, like all of it, the bacon, the fucking all of it. I got all of it. I got a whole shitload of pork fat, just whatever, and I think I got ribs out of it and something else. And it's $150. Alcohol is included. They got like coolers full of IPAs and microbrews and shit. And you get to take a bunch of meat. They teach you how to do it. It's a 2-3 hour thing, and they serve up dinner. And when we did it, there was it was some sort of sausage like brats or something like that. But then they had like the jardiniere, and God, it was just fucking fabulous for like $150 or something like that. It was a whole night. It was really good.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Actually,
I'd get too many beers and cut myself.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I just look at it like if they're gonna cut it from the nose to the asshole or the snout to the asshole. I think at that point I just throw it on a big giant smoker and let her buck.
You guys ever tried that? Doing a whole hog?
I've been part of places that have done it, and at say get-togethers or whatever, and it's quite a bit of work.
Yeah,
it's fun. Scott, where are you going?
I'm walking through my house. My laptop's dead.
Gotcha. So, anyways, we did the whole hog, half hog kind of deal. The next time the guy did his get together like that for say a yearly deal, he ended up just going and buying like 8 or 9 pork roasts and calling it a day. Sure. Put it on the same smoker. You don't have to dick around with all the bones and shit like that. All you got to do is just get it all smoked, pull it, and so probably more, I guess, easier way to do it, especially if you're going to spend a day drinking and trying to smoke the meat. So probably
I've never done it, but 2 years ago, took the family to like Gulf Shores, Alabama, and the place was doing. They said it was like a Hawaiian luau or whatever on the beach that night, like the resort we were staying at. And we went down, and they had done, the whole hog all together, and went up and served it. And basically, it didn't matter where they took the meat out of that pig, it tasted like pulled pork bacon. Like it was all perfect. It was all so good.
Yeah, you get to that point, it's like I dig in and I'm trying to find like say the reddest piece I can find or whatever, just because I feel like that's going to probably have the most flavor, like a little bit of ham or whatever. But you're right though. It's weird. You cook a whole hog and it's nothing really tastes any different than the next section.
Yeah, and I went up for like fifths. Like we were on a first name basis, me and the guy serving it, and it was all the same. I went up there and he was at the front. And by the time I got my last one, he was at the back, and every bite was the same.
Yeah,
it was good. It was really good.
They are kind of. It's interesting how good they are, but they are a lot of work, a lot of messing around.
Well, something to try one day. That's the next big thing. Somebody's got to try it. We keep talking about our big border gathering. The 5 of us keep talking about. Cory brought up Boundary Waters, and we've talked about various things. Maybe that's a little bit more our speed, is just make a whole hog and get drunk.
Yeah, smoke some meat and get drunk. Oh, I'll bring the camper. It'll be great. I'll just sleep in my truck.
There you go. Someone's got to come up with the process of doing the old in-ground pit hog and figure that one out. I know a couple guys have done it. I've just never done it personally myself.
Not it.
No.
Not yet. Not it. I call first on fifths, but I'm not going to make it. I'm just going to go up and get my first through fifth plate.
Well,
I'll tell you what. We can have Seth dig the hole in his yard. I'll cook it, but I'm not digging the hole, and it's not in my yard. So he
I
can
think
do
Seth
that.
still owes Kenzie some sort of mow his lawn in short shorts or something like that from a bet a couple years ago.
true.
We could just roll that all the way forward and say Seth's going to dig a hole, Corey's going to cook, Tim's going to make the beer, I'm going to eat, and Ken's is going to clean up.
This tastes like shit. Ugh.
That's one fucked up party I'm going to, I guess. I don't know. Sounds bass backwards to me.
That sounds perfect.
Either way, it'll
All
still
right,
be.
fellas. Yeah. We good? We done for tonight?
Yep, I think we're good. Drinks empty. Crickets are out.
Laptop's dead. Probably a good time.
There you go.
All right. Well, with Border Outdoors, I am Scott.
I'm Tim.
I'm Cory.
See you, folks.
Thanks for listening to the Border Outdoors podcast. Follow us on Instagram and be sure to join, follow, and share the Border Outdoors Facebook community page. Also, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Spotify, Apple, or whatever podcast hosting site you listen to. Tune in next week, see what we're talking about, and make sure to get out there and make your own memories.
Hunting and fishing, singing and kissing, here we come. So grab your guns, grab your lines, and here we come.